Welcome to the Om at Home podcast. Om at Home is your destination to see what's happening in the yoga world right now, with inspiring interviews from master teachers, trainers, and students sharing their journey to inspire yours. Join us today to hear insights from the world's greatest minds to help you achieve mind-body balance in the modern world with your hosts, Raphael and Julian Arce. Welcome, everyone. My name is Raphael, and this is the Om at Home podcast. Today, we have Johanna with us, originally from France. She's traveled and lived in many places all over the world, including the US, Canada, Spain, England, and then moved to Bali, where she's joining us from today, right now, Bali, Indonesia. For many years, she's also worked as an asset management, client relationships, as an actress, film producer, and cinema is actually one of her passions that she's been practicing yoga for the past 20 years. Right before hitting rock bottom, is she's allowed herself to dive a lot deeper into it. Since then, she's had a huge passion for yoga, and the philosophy of life has grown on her. Welcome today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raphael. I'm so grateful to be here with you today, connected.
Yes, and you're joining us from Bali right now.
Yes, I am. It's a beautiful morning to wake up to.
That's beautiful. So how long have you been there, and where were you before Bali, before you decided to go there?
So I have been in Bali now for about 2.5 years. And on the main island, actually, about 1 year. But before moving to the main island of Bali, I was on a little tiny island called Nusa Lembongan. It's 8 square kilometers. It's really, really tiny. It's at the south of Bali. It's 40 minutes boat ride from the main island. And I was there for 1.5 years teaching and training teachers. So I was part of a yoga teacher training school. Okay. And we had about 30 students every single month coming all the way from different parts of the world and wanting to be a teacher. So that was my job for about 1.5 years. And before I was on Nusa Lembongan, I actually spent, as you mentioned before, I spent a lot of time abroad in different places. And the last place was London. So can you imagine, after spending 8 years in London, I moved from a big capital city to a tiny Indonesian island.
And just that, the weather changed too. I'm assuming it's cold in London.
Yeah, and London is pretty gray, and it's there's not a lot of sun, and I moved to a tropical weather, and in London you find all kinds of shops and everything available, and suddenly you find yourself in a tiny place where there's not many things to find, and you have to learn to live very simply, and it's a challenging but beautiful experience. And I had the desire for many years to change my life completely. And I've lived in many capitals before London. It was Madrid in Spain, and then Montreal in Canada, and before that, the US. And I really was craving more nature and freedom. And when I discovered yoga, so the first time I started practice was at university. And it was beautiful. I loved the practice. But when I decided, so as you mentioned before, I hit rock bottom. A lot of different things happened personally and professionally. And then there was a time in my life where I decided, okay, I need to go away from everything and just meditate and have a little think about my life and what I really want to do. And that's when I decided to do my own teacher training. So I left to Bali in 2015, and I did this, and it was really transformative for me because I had a chance to take a look at my life and what I had done and what I really wanted, and what I was allowing, things that weren't right, and it was a breath of fresh air for me. And I came back. I came back to London thinking, okay, now I really want to be a yoga teacher. That's all I want to do. Obviously, life was hitting me with real challenges, and I realized that it wasn't going to happen overnight. So I had to go back to my old job and or just find another job in asset management. So I had to go back in an office and do it all over again for another 3 years until I was able to do really what I wanted. But so on the side, I was teaching yoga whilst I was working in an office, and I was doing privates. I was teaching community groups, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. And every time I was teaching, I felt it was so satisfying for me to really help people. And I felt like this is all I want to do. You know, even the little bit of my acting that I had on the side also felt a little bit superficial. I felt like I needed something more profound and where I could you know, help people feel better and be better and just have that sense of fulfillment. And then since then I just realized you know, London is not really the place for me. It never felt like home. It always felt temporary, like all the other places. And I just felt the need to go somewhere where I felt more connected with nature and a little bit more free, you know. And Bali was always in my mind. And then I had the opportunity. I was offered a job to be a teacher trainer on this at the school where I had been taught, and it was on this tiny island that was being built. The school was being built on the island, so I had the opportunity to work there. And you know, as soon as it came through, I said yes, absolutely, no doubts. I'm just going.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah, I
yeah,
feel
so I,
like a lot of people go through some what they call a spiritual awakening or a
yeah,
defining moment in their life where they have to draw a line,
yeah,
sometimes literally in the sand, where they look at their career path and they find themselves in transition where they have to make this call. And I feel like some people get to do that on the first try, and
yeah,
you know, for you, you know, I think it's very humbling, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for you to look at that you had to go back for a few years before you made it a reality. So you didn't
that's
give
right.
up on it. And I feel like there's so many people out there right now who are listening to this who want to go take this path and maybe feel like it's such a big leap. They may not give themselves permission. I think I'd like to talk about that point in your life where you gave yourself permission, because there's so many out there that they are in the way of themselves because they don't give themselves the permission to follow that intuition, that voice. What was it for you to finally give yourself permission and act on that instinct?
That's a really good point, Raphael. Yeah, absolutely. Permission is, you know, allowing yourself to believe in your dreams and to make them possible. Because we always think, oh, this happens to others, but you know, I'm not good enough, or you know, it's not going to happen to me, or I can't make this happen because look at my situation. How am I going to make this happen? And it's for me, I think it was just starting to believe in, you know, that I just wanted to really make my dreams come true, and then why not, you know. I think also just getting to the point where I realized that I'm the only one that can change my life, if you know, and nobody else is going to change it for me. And at the end of the day, we are all responsible for our actions and our choices, and everybody can achieve anything they want, really. But often it's a matter of belief. We always think that, you know, we can't, because it's programming that has been ingrained in our brain or in our mind for, you know, a long time, depending on your culture, your background, where you come from, what your family beliefs are, your friends, your surroundings. And sometimes we need to break those walls to be able to say, okay, no, actually I can do this if I really want to, because the world is available, and if people have achieved this, why couldn't I?
Yeah, I
And
think one of the biggest things that stands out to me from all of that is you took responsibility for your outcome. Where I
yeah,
feel that right
yeah,
now it's very easy to be in a victim mentality where I can't do this because of who is president, or you don't understand my circumstances, or you
that's
know, all of these excuses. you get stuck in these stories, and those stories only are true because you give them power. You know, a lot of
Absolutely.
these stories in our head are just limiting beliefs that, you know, that really keep you in that victim mentality, which blocks you from giving yourself permission to do that. One of the things that came up to mind is one of my favorite poems that I used to just wake up and recite all the time, but it's an Invictus poem, and at the end is I am the captain of my soul,
Yeah.
and I'm the master of my fate. And,
Yeah.
you know, taking that responsibility that you are the master of your fate and you are the captain of your soul. And I think you demonstrated that. And I think that's one of the biggest uh, things that you've talked about today is that mindset, because it's easy to say give yourself permission, but when it really comes down to it,
Yeah.
they're buried behind our stories. You know, there's so many stories that we tell ourselves every day, and that's why we sell ourselves on those ideas.
Absolutely. And you know, when you're mentioning the idea of being a victim, it's actually easier if you think about it. It's comforting because then you go, I don't have to do anything. You know, it's easier to stay in my comfort zone. I don't have to take a risk. So it's easier to say, oh, you know, I can't do this because this doesn't allow me, or my family doesn't allow me, or the government, or whatever the situation, my circumstances don't allow me to do this. And in a way, it's like, okay, well, then I don't have to try anything. It's easier to just say, to shut it all down, right?
Absolutely.
If you say, okay, I'm responsible, I'm going to make it happen, you have to take risks. And that's challenging. You know, I was, you know, I used to, a few years before I made this move, I was looking at Instagram. I remember that I was very new to Instagram, and I used to look at profiles of yoga teachers in a tropical island. And I was like, oh, this is the life I want. But it seemed like a, you know, faraway dream. And then when it was actually happening and I had this opportunity, I couldn't even believe it. But I was terrified inside, you know, because imagine, like, I had my little job in an office. I had my you know, a really good salary, because when you work in finance, you know, in the asset management industry, it's pretty good money. And then I had my benefits, my healthcare, my, you know, all of that. It's like you feel protected in a way, right?
Sure.
And even though it's not the life you want, you feel safe. And and I had a home, you know, and I was living in a let's say developed part of the world. And suddenly I'm sent to a tropical island, which I've, you know, tiny, and I have no idea what it's gonna be like. It's gonna be miles away from all the people I know. And then I would wake up at night and completely like with anxiety, with, you know, terrified, like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm moving out and I'm quitting my job without absolute, you know, I had no guarantee that it was going to work out. And there was no like, you know, even the money I was going to get was not really, it was not really defined. It was like everything was, so many, I had so many questions. I didn't really know where I was going and what was going to happen. And that's pretty scary when you have a very safe place and suddenly you have to step out of that safe zone to experience something different. But if you don't step out of that comfort zone, then you never experience the adventure and everything that I've, you know, all the beautiful gifts that I've received by doing this experience.
Absolutely.
So
And I think for those that are listening right now, this may be you right now, where you're in a career path that the pay or the benefits are just enough to keep you there, but not enough for you to leave. You know, you're kind
yeah,
of stuck, especially in the corporate world. They're very, very strategic when it comes to compensation and pay, where you're not overpaid, where you could just get up and leave because you have this excess of money. But you're also right in below where, you know, you're just in a comfortable spot and it keeps you trapped. Was this you when you were in your career path?
yeah, absolutely. You know, it's, yeah, absolutely. Because when you don't know when the whatever is out there, it's very uncertain. It's easier to stay in the safe zone. And I'll tell you something else. Just before, I think within the 6 months before I had to leave or something, I was not even looking for a job, like, because obviously I was considering this, but I had someone, you know, like a headhunter call me, and then I had this interview, and I just thought, okay, I'll go to this other interview for this other company. And then it turns out they ended, I was not even, you know, that motivated, or I was just like keeping an eye. And then they came back to me with an offer, and the salary was so much better. But for me, see, I saw that as a life test. It was like, okay, here's an opportunity to get more money and to stay here, or are you actually going to do this? And I obviously, ended up just leaving and not taking that offer. But it was, there was a part of me like somehow it was tempting. I was thinking maybe I should take that job for a little bit and then go later when I have more money. There was a part of me that was also almost considering, what if I just take that job, get more money for a while, save a little bit, and then maybe I'll make the move a little bit later when I'll feel a bit safer. Because we always want, to feel, we feel that maybe we're not just ready, and then we need to wait a little bit more to feel that moment where we feel ready. But actually, we're never going to be completely ready. So that was a
Yeah.
good test.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I feel like the universe throws a test at you, and you have to be aware enough whether it's a defining moment, and that decision will either keep holding you in the same place or catapult you in the direction that you should be going.
yeah. So, we're never going to feel completely ready. The fear is always going to be there. But in a way, fear also has the same emotions as the excitement. When you feel excited, you're also a little bit nervous. You have adrenaline. It's like, fears are there also. It's completely normal to have fears. If you didn't have fears, then you wouldn't do something exciting, and you would just stay in the same safe place, and it would be a little bit boring. So the fear is also showing you, well, there's something exciting out there. It's okay as long as it's it's not an extreme fear. And so sometimes you just have to take that fear and go, okay, I'm still gonna go through it. I'm not gonna shut down all my dreams because that fear is coming up. I'm gonna be able to deal with it. It's possible, and I want to see what's out there. Otherwise, I'll never get the opportunity to see what's out there and what life I can have. So you need to take risks.
Absolutely. And I mean, after you've went through this career change and this leap of faith, you found yourself leading others through their journey when they're coming
Mm,
from, different places in the world. How, how are you teaching them to do it? But I think it's interesting for you because you went through a teacher training and you had to go through your own journey. So
yes.
now you get the opportunity to teach also
Yeah.
probably from what you felt lacked in your teacher training or something that
Mm,
you lacked in your teacher training. And I think their students or your students are learning from your perspective now from those dual realities.
yeah. So yeah, when you teach a teacher training, that there's also there's a lot of different things you need to take into consideration, and because everybody has a story, everybody has a different background, and they come with their own. Sometimes there's trauma you need to deal with, and when you do teacher training like that for a whole month away from home, because yeah, there are teacher trainings that you can do in your own city, and then instead of doing it in 1 month intensively, you do it like every weekend for a few hours, or something like this over a whole year or year and a half. And that's good to be able to assimilate all the information, but at the same time you don't get the opportunity to really step out of your home and of your environment, to be somewhere where you can actually take a little bit, a step away from your life, and look at it from a different perspective. So it's really interesting what happens when you have like 30 students coming from all different places, and they find themselves in this little island, and they know they want to change something in themselves, but they don't really know how, and they're a little bit scared. They're away from their family. Maybe they have children and a husband or a spouse that they left at home, and they feel like a little bit vulnerable, and it's completely normal. So you have to make them feel safe, and for them to be able to take that time to appreciate whatever happens, because during that training it's not a retreat. There's a lot of work. It's a deep work.
You know what's funny is we've done we do like about 14 teacher trainings a year, but and we do them
Yeah.
intensive. But the interesting thing is that what you just said, if you're thinking of considering yoga teacher training, doesn't matter where you go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to somewhere beautiful like Bali,
Yeah.
the idea is that they are going to go on some sort of retreat, but like
Yeah.
you said, there's a lot of work, and there's a little bit of disappointment because they want to go and explore the area. So I think if you are planning to do something where you're going to go away for a while, plan to stay, before, after to do that, because when you're in
Yeah.
teacher training, it's they call it a life transformational experience for a reason. It's not because you're, vacationing and things like that. So I think it's interesting because that is probably my next question to you is like, what is one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to teacher training that you've
Yeah.
seen?
Well, that's exactly what you said. A lot of people go in there thinking, oh, it's, I'll just go on a longer retreat and it'll be fun. And then they realize they actually have to go internally. Also the misconception is thinking you go on this teacher training and you're going to be so good at doing handstands and complicated, poses, because often yoga is believed to be all about the pose and the flexibility and how strong you are and all this. And often people come and well, at least in our teacher training where we teach, traditional
Yoga.
vinyasa craft,
Yeah.
it's really about understanding the true essence of yoga. And it's a philosophy of life. It's how you deal with challenges in life. It's how you love yourself, how you communicate with others. It's all about that. There's so much, about it. And often yoga is believed to be all about the physical aspect and the poses. And so sometimes they're like, oh, so we're not actually going to learn how to, do like complicated poses, or, they come like with this idea that at the end of the month they'll be so fit and like, so sometimes it's like completely, yeah, it's a little bit disarming for them because they feel like, wow, actually that's not what I expected. But they come out when at the end they're super happy because they realize that they had
Yeah.
to go internally. And in the end, we don't teach them to be more fit, or like it's not about the pose. Actually, we teach them to slow down and to breathe more and to go and to do less and to be more with their body and connect with their mind and understand what's happening within, and how what's happening within is affecting the choices that they make in their lives. And it's like for them it's like mind-blowing, and they come out at the end with tears, and saying that, sharing that it's the most beautiful experience they've had in their life, because now they understand, so much more. And then they go back a lot stronger, but in a, stronger internally, because they realize that maybe that they are going to pursue their dreams, and why they start realizing, why did I not believe in myself before, or why was I authorizing this toxic relationship in my life, and things like that. So it's very, very powerful. It is totally life transformational.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah.
to describe sometimes. We sometimes hear different things. One of the things that is like more of a soulful experience, but one of the things that we do see as well is people say, I'm going to juice for a month, and I'm going to be, doing handstands when I walk out of there, and
Yeah.
it's just not what they expected, in a good way, because there's always, transformational. But I'd love that that you are teaching something more traditional um,
Mm,
in that aspect, because it's not what you see as advertised, because I feel like it's being advertised as something that our bodies are different. Your body's different than mine, male, female, and
that's
just different backgrounds. So naturally, our bodies are not going to be able to do something. Like maybe I'll never get to do something because my body just wasn't wired that way.
yeah.
But it doesn't mean that we can't work towards it. It just means, I think it's just giving yourself permission to see what's possible and then go
Yeah,
from there.
that's right. Yeah, to see your potential.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And one of the things that we do inside of Om at Home is we ask you a couple questions just to get a little bit more perspective on your background. But the first question is, if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
A billboard.
Yes.
So, sorry, what do you mean?
Oh, a billboard? A billboard's like a big poster on the side of the
Right.
road.
Yeah, so like an advert, like something to say to people, right?
Yes, but it would be
Okay.
yours.
Okay. Right, sorry. Now I get it. It would be um, you are unique and you are here with a purpose, and you should believe in yourself, and no one else can be you, and that is your power.
I love it. I love it. That would be a beautiful billboard.
I think sometimes people don't believe, and I speak from experience. I've struggled my whole life to believe more in myself, and I've changed through the years, like, so much. But if I think 20 years back, like, I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't think I was anyone special, and I think every single person on earth is special and has special gifts. And sometimes with what happens around us in the media, we feel like we should do like others, we should copy. Oh, they're doing this, I should do the same because that's what people want, or that's like trendy at the moment. Or when you're a yoga teacher, there's so many yoga teachers out there,
Mhm.
and sometimes you feel like they're doing this, so I should do the same, but actually it's not really you. So I think authenticity for me is really important. And it's not always easy to live authentically, because that means that you might face rejection, and people won't accept you, and some people will like you and some others won't. But if we are made different, then why are we trying to all be the same sometimes?
I love
So
that. I love it
mm,
so much because you brought up a good point that um, that you have to in the face of being authentic, you're going to face rejection, and
yeah,
like that's what comes with it. I think that's so beautifully well thought out that someone who well, it's easy to say good vibes and be authentic self and all those things, and then next thing you know, someone's like, I didn't like your class, right? I didn't go back because X, Y, or Z. And it all just meant that they're going to go find it. It's not that they should give up on yoga. It just means like the tradition wasn't for them. The class wasn't for them. The playlist was different. It's just there's so many different variables of why someone's going to connect with you or go somewhere else.
yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. All right. And the next question is 150 years from now, let's say science fails to save us, and all that is left is a book about your life. What would the title be, and what would a blurb tell us about your book?
How to feel better emotionally, physically, energetically, and mentally. And I don't know if that would be the title, but that would be what's the book about. Um, yeah, I think the book title might be just Be You.
Be you. Love it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think and I have the intention actually to write a book. I don't know when that's gonna happen, but that's another thing on my list of things I want to do before I die.
Well, you're manifesting on the spot. You're putting it out there that that's the title of your book. So it might
Yeah,
happen pretty soon.
yeah, but that's it. I think through my own experience and what I've learned from my own teachers, and just through life, if I can help anyone, it would be just to feel better and accept, for them to accept themselves more, and live more authentically, and just feel better. Because at the end of the day, everything we do in life is to feel good, right? To be
Absolutely.
happy. What is being happy is feeling good emotionally, mentally, physically, energetically. So yeah, I think and then just being ourselves, because that's a big thing. I find sometimes it's a struggle to be yourself in this society. So yeah, be you. Maybe I just started a book now with
Love
your
it.
question.
I love it. And Joanna, for our listeners who would like to connect with you more, how can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yes, so I'm on Instagram. My username is Johanna Pollet Yoga. So JohannaPolletYoga. And my website is johannapolletyoga.com.
Awesome. I
So feel
love it.
free to. and ask me any questions, suggestions, or whatever you would love to see on social media, anything about yoga or life in general.
I love it. And do you have a Facebook as well that they can connect with you?
Yeah,
Or okay,
as well, Johanna Pollet or Johanna Pollet Yoga.
that's awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Well, you've heard Joanna, and maybe you can exchange some pictures from Bali if you want to see her journey, or you've never been to Bali. You can live vicariously by following her, and I'm sure she loves to share some of those images. With
Yeah, it's very magical. Have you been to Bali, Raphael?
I haven't. My wife has.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, hopefully, after all this is, this whole COVID situation is over, you can visit with her.
Yes. Well, she's been there once already, and um,
Hmm.
she loved it. So.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make it around there. And hopefully people will start traveling and things will go back to safely. I definitely think this time around, people would be a little bit more conscious about different things in health. But I think if anything, it's really brought up the topic of health again. With
Yeah.
longevity and health are just near and dear to my heart. So I love that it's sparking up the conversation of longevity again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I feel like through this whole year, people are going back to the basics, eating healthy and growing their own vegetables and being around nature. So yeah, Bali is definitely a beautiful place to experience that. And yeah, it just has some magical, there's something magical about Bali as well. But yeah, you have to experience it.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and make sure that you connect with her either on Facebook, Instagram, or her website. And I'd love to dive deeper in this in the future with this topic. And with that, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rafael. Thank you for having me.
So, where in your life can you apply one of the lessons or takeaways you learned today? Then share your thoughts to continue the conversation and more by joining the connected community by downloading the Om at Home app on your phone via App Store or Google Play. Go to www.omathomeapp.com now to see what's happening in the yoga world.